So last October, we promised that the new Defense Investment Agency would accelerate timelines, strengthen partnerships, deliver better outcomes for our armed forces and our economy. In January, in Davos, I stated that Canada must work with like-minded middle powers at speed and scale to create mutual reliance, to expand our strategic capabilities, and to build greater strategic autonomy. In February here, we launched our new Defense Industrial Strategy, a bold plan to get our armed forces what they need when they need it, to scale Canadian defense companies and put hundreds of billions of dollars to work in strategic sectors of our economy. Well, we're turning those commitments into action because tyranny is no longer in retreat, because the threats we and our allies face are real and varied, because they must be met head-on by a Canada prepared to defend our interests, protect our citizens, build our economy, and secure our future. And because we are Canada strong. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We will now take the questions. Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions des médias. Première question, first question.
Hi, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm Lindsay Jones from the Globe and Mail. In Korea, you boarded an actual completed version of the submarine Hanwha Ocean was offering to Canada. In Germany, they gave you a small model of what they're offering. What did TKMS Germany promise in terms of delivery schedule for all 12 submarines? And is there not a considerable risk of Canada having almost no submarine capability until the late 2030s and not having a full fleet of 12 or more for more than 25 years, given there is no German submarine built or tested? TKMS has limited shipyard capacity, and these development programs always go later over budget.
Thank you. First off, thank you for your question. I'd refer back to several things. First, just for clarity, we will enter into negotiations. The Defense Investment Agency will enter into negotiations for up to 12 submarines. That's the first aspect, just to be clear. Secondly, the German government, the Norwegian government have offered, and this works, to make available some of their slots in the production of these submarines so that we can receive submarines earlier. So we will receive submarines earlier, as I referenced in my remarks, and you'll see in the backgrounder. The expectation is we'd have 4 submarines by 2034. Recall that the original timeline for this procurement was 5 years from now. So we're making a decision today. We're talking about getting the submarines on that timeline. And I'd make one other point, which is that this is a platform, a consortium that provides a third of the submarines to NATO. It's the largest provider of submarines effectively in the world, but certainly relevant is a third of the submarines to NATO. So all of those aspects in terms of delivery capacity, the ability for that to happen in accordance with the specs of the Royal Navy, obviously taken directly into account, and it's very robust, and we're very pleased with that. And I'm going to say as well, I'm going to take the opportunity, as was the competing bid, if I can call the Hanwha Ocean bid the competing bid, it was also very strong, and we were blessed with 2 strong bids, and we've got made a determination of the best for Canada in all respects.
Follow-up?
Okay, and to follow up, are you not worried about a totally European focus for international efforts and setting up a similar reliance with Europe like we've had with the U.S.? Did an Asian firm ever really have a chance to win this? And is this a signal that Canada is walking away from its Indo-Pacific strategy?
Absolutely not. It's absolutely not a symbol of the last point. We're very committed to the Indo-Pacific strategy, consistent with my meeting with President Marcos last week. I will be at ASEAN and APEC later this year. I spoke with President Lee of Korea over the course of the weekend. There are a series of other initiatives Canada and Korea are pursuing that build our economic resilience and our security footprint as one very important example. So, and I would remind as well that we are engaged intensively in trade negotiations with India, and Prime Minister Modi and I met recently, reconfirmed our intention to complete those negotiations by the end of this year. I can give you more examples, but there's a lineup behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, thank you, Prime Minister. It's Aaron Beswick from the Chronicle Herald. Just up the road in Hawkesbury, there's a proposed green hydrogen export facility.
Yes.
And it's waiting on, basically, to get the go-ahead on whether to construct on the H2 global auction, which your government committed $300 million to, as did the German government. What I'm wondering is, as part of the industrial benefits, is green hydrogen, ammonia, purchasing from Canada and, building facilities like that, is that part of what's being negotiated with Germany?
I'm going to give you a slightly coy answer in the following respect. There's a series of industrial benefits that have been discussed. I referenced some broad categories, which included elements of renewable. That is part of the next stage. Nailing those down, if I can put it in those terms, is part of the next stage of the negotiations. Let me say independent. So I'm not going to go to a very specific example in any of the categories, if you don't mind. But let me make a general point, which is that we see a role, we, the government, see a role for green hydrogen as part of a broader range of renewable solutions and energy solutions, just as we do, and I'm going to take the liberty with Premier Houston here, we see an enormous opportunity in offshore wind and a broader build-out of the energy infrastructure here in Nova Scotia to the benefit of obviously the province, Atlantic Canada, and all of Canada, and we're actively pursuing it on all those fronts.
Thank you. And just one quick one. We've got, we're told it's a big contract and they're expensive, but we're not going to find out how much, when do we find out? Do you have timelines for when we'll have a number?
Yeah, I understand the question. And you understand, I think, the reason why we don't reveal a specific price, because then that prejudices the negotiations. It's the largest procurement that we have made as a country, so that gives some sense of orders of magnitude. The timing for the contract, look, we accelerated the speed with which the overall decision was taken by 5 years, as I've mentioned. These contract negotiations can take somewhere between 6 to 18 months. In the past, they've taken longer. One of the benefits of having a dedicated defense investment agency and a point agency and the expertise that Doug Guzman and his colleagues represent is that we can move with speed and get the best deals. So it'll take as long as it takes, but no longer. And of course, as that proceeds, we will, as soon as the numbers start to get nailed down, we'll reveal those numbers.
Thanks much.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Bonjour Monsieur le Premier ministre, Kira Morellon avec Radio-Canada. Ma question suit un peu celle de mon collègue. Vous parlez de la rapidité avec laquelle vous avez choisi de faire affaire avec cette compagnie.
Oui.
À quelle rapidité est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre à avoir une signature, des détails concrets sur ce dont vous vous engagez?
OK, c'est une question importante. Et comme je viens de dire, d'expliquer, pour le moment, on ne dit pas, ce n'était pas votre question, mais pour le moment, soyons clairs, on ne dit pas le montant possible de le contrat. En ce qui concerne le temps de négociation, probablement c'est entre 6 mois et 18 mois. Ça, c'est normal. Ce sera une contrat, ou plus que ça. En effet, c'est une entente complexe parce qu'il y a des bénéfices industriels. On doit négocier en même temps que il faut préciser. C'est plus que ça. On a l'idée de tous les bénéfices du contrat, mais il faut préciser et négocier les points finaux. Alors, la réponse courte, c'est trop tard, mais la réponse courte, c'est 6 mois à 18 mois.
Question de suivi.
Et ça, vous avez mentionné que vous êtes sur le point de vous envoler pour un sommet de l'OTAN.
Oui.
Est-ce que faire cette annonce aujourd'hui, confirmer que vous voulez faire affaire avec TKMS, est-ce que vous aviez besoin de faire cette annonce aujourd'hui pour peut-être rassurer vos alliés en partant pour cette conférence?
Je ne crois pas. C'est utile, bien sûr, d'être plus concret au sommet de l'OTAN. On va discuter. Ça, dans la grande réunion du mercredi, on va discuter les menaces dans le secteur de l'Arctique et de la mer Baltique et tout cela parce qu'ils sont liés, ce sera sûr. Et c'est une haute contribution du Canada par rapport d'établir la paix ou la sécurité là. Mais c'était le plan depuis quelques mois de prendre cette décision juste avant le jour du Canada. Alors, c'est aujourd'hui parce qu'il y a d'autres annonces, l'annonce de la Colombie-Britannique et de l'Alberta pour cette jour. Alors, c'est utile, oui, mais ce n'était pas nécessaire.